Tampa Bay Lightning dropped Game 1 in Sunrise, and which was a tale of missed chances. We break down the game and all of it on this episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Tanker. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Locked On Lightning. Just a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. On this episode, obviously, we are recapping Game 1, the loss yesterday to the Florida Panthers, 3-2 in Sunrise. We talk about all the storylines from that game, Kucherov being smothered, not being able to get things going at all. We talk about Andrei Vasilevskiy's performance, how he really showed up in this one. But before we grab any of those topics, I want to humbly ask you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast or follow us on wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button below this video and let me know your feelings from Game 1 in the comments. So yesterday was one of those games that we have seen from this Lightning team numerous times this season. And what it really was the Lightning just not starting off on the right foot and just really taking a long time to get things started. We're talking about 15 plus minutes in the first period without a shot. And that's really where it really frustrates me with this Lightning team, and really has been the key to a lot of their struggles this year. And really over the last couple of years really is, we always talk about how the Lightning do a lot of things good and do a lot of things well. But the thing that really they do not do well, and I spoke about this on the crossover episode with Armando. I spoke about it on the episode prior to that, how it was going to be interesting to see what kind of team we were going to get in the opening minutes of this Game 1. Because the Lightning, whether it be this season, whether it been the last couple of years, really don't do well with a lot of days off. Not to say that they didn't play well as a whole throughout this course of this game, but we could go back and, really, I think, say with a good amount of confidence, the Lightning get off to a good start in this game. Things might shape up a little bit better in their favor. That last goal from Stamkos could very well be a game winner for the Lightning instead of putting them within one. But, and I'll give kudos where it's well-deserved. I mean, the Panthers played very well in this one. They didn't make that many mistakes, and the mistakes in which they made, really the Lightning weren't able to do anything with that. It wasn't your regular case where another team makes a mistake and you're able to capitalize on that, where in this instance, the Panthers were very, very disciplined in this. They had a stranglehold on the neutral zone as well. But really, those first 15 minutes of that first period really set the tone, I think, for the rest of the series. Not so much the game, because as you saw, the Lightning got better and better as the game went on, especially after the Hagel goal. Things kind of seemed to have gone the Lightning way, and they really settled in as the game went on. But like I've said, with every Lightning game in which this has really transpired in, and if you've been listening for a while or just during just the season, whether it's a recap or a preview, even the previews, I talk about how the Lightning really need to get things going early on, set the tone, whether it be on the road or at home. But that was not the case in this one. But yeah, the Panthers, for as much as I want to say that the Lightning did not play well, the Panthers played equally as well. I mean, this isn't a team that is inexperienced that's coming into this game, deer in the headlight. It's really the opposite of that. And then you couple that with Bobrovsky playing as well as he did in this one. That's a tough task when you're starting slow, and that's really something that I've kind of preached in every single game for the most part this year, where it doesn't matter if a team's really good or if they're kind of bottom of the barrel in the NHL. You need to go out there and play as well as we know you will play later on in the period or even throughout the second period. You got to bring that for 60 minutes. And this was definitely not a 60-minute effort for the Lightning. The other thing that kind of was concerning to me in those first 15 minutes, other than the giveaways, the inability to really not get any shots on net or really take any shots, was the body language of the Lightning. How they kind of almost looked unprepared, I would say, for the intensity of this one. It was concerning to me because, and I've spoken about it on the 2 last episodes last week, about how, as the talent is definitely there for the Panthers. We definitely saw it in this game and throughout the course of this season that the Panthers do have the edge. But as we all know, the playoffs are a different animal, and really what it comes down to is experience and discipline and really just being able to conduct yourself accordingly in certain situations. And this Lightning team early on, I've said it from the jump that, they have a ton of experience. Even the guys that have not been here have had experience elsewhere. The Anthony Duclairs, Matt Dumba has had a few opportunities out there when he played for Minnesota in the playoffs. So the playoffs aren't really anything new to him either. And the younger guys, really, the few of them, it's really just, a matter of them just following along and from the veterans setting an example. But this was a disappointing one because I felt like as the game went on, the Lightning settled in. They got things going, especially later in the first and throughout the second. They had their opportunities, and they just weren't able to put the puck on net for the most part, especially later on in the game in the third. And that's the thing. Hagel had a couple opportunities, Stamkos, Point. We'll get to Kucherov in the second half of the show because I really want to dive into him because it was very apparent that he was not able whatsoever to really do much of anything, and really that's something that I'm sure that the Lightning and as well as Kuch will have in the back of their heads heading into this game. So into game 2 tomorrow night. So we'll talk about that as well coming up in just a little bit. But yeah, let me know in the comments below. I mean, there's a ton of things to really take away from this game. And I'll talk about this later as well. Vasilevskiy played well. I mean, he really kept the Lightning in this. Stamkos, I thought, was very good. The rest of the team played very well. Esamont was all over the place. I did not agree with pulling Vasilevskiy as early as Cooper did in the third period, but it did lead to a power play, which ended up the Lightning having 6-on-4 and it ended up being the Stamkos goal, but it was only like 8 seconds left. So it's one of those things where, it sucks, but you saw a lot of positives at the end of this one. And now that the Lightning kind of have gotten into the swing of things, it's not like they're going to have another long layoff. They get to jump back into it Tuesday night. I would expect a different start to this game. I don't think it's going to be definitely as lopsided as we saw in the first 15 of of this period, of the first period of game one. So let me know in the comments below your thoughts and takeaways from the game. And coming up in just a little bit, we're going to talk about Nikita Kucherov. We're going to talk about just what happened. Really, for the most part, he was a non-factor in this one. We'll talk about that as well. But first, we're going to talk about two of our first sponsors today, and that is, first of all, our friends over at FanDuel. Now, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And we'll talk about our other sponsor, and that is our friends over at Policy Genius. Now, did you know that life insurance really is, unless you're getting it through a job, I mean, it's hard to find the right policy for, even through your job. It's really hard to find the right policy in today's age that could help you and your family get on the right track. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts that are on hand to help you talk through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurance in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL or click the link in the description to get your free insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnNHL. So as always, I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel there. Hit that notification button so as soon as the newest episode drops, you'll be notified. And also head over to our social media pages, LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram for follow along with more content as the series goes on. So one of the things, other than the issues in the neutral zone and turnovers and just inability to get anything started in this game early on, the thing that was very concerning to me, and this should be really a non-shock at this point, is Kucherov not really doing much of anything. And a lot of that has to do with the Panthers just smothering him as soon as he gets the puck, as they should. I mean, he was, whether you want to count whether any way you want to talk about it, he was one of the best players in the league this year. He just, his ability to put up 3-4 points a night was just unbelievable. Won the Art Ross Trophy. It was announced the other day. Hopefully we see a Hart Trophy coming at the end of the playoffs, but in a game like this, in a series like this, it's really, really difficult to get things going, especially for a team like the Lightning that, yeah, they have the weapons. We talk about it all the time here on the show, but like I've said countlessly throughout the 4 years that we have done this podcast, it starts and it ends with Kucherov having the puck, and really just it was disappointing to see him really just not have a good game. He was frustrated. I mean, everything for the most part that the Panthers were doing was pretty good. I mean, there was a couple of chances there at the end of the game where there was one where Kucherov got hit on a turnover. He didn't have the puck. It should have been interference. And then a couple of sequences later, he gets slashed. No call there either. So there was a lot of issues from this game that I kind of had with the penalty calling. I felt like, there was the Paul tripping was all right. Like, if you're going to call that, then call other stuff that we saw later on. It was just very weird to me how the situations that the refs were they were swallowing their whistle on certain plays. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse for the Lightning losing this game. Absolutely not. And I'm definitely not going to use that as an excuse for just Kucherov not getting anything really going. I mean, he had an assist in this game on the goal at the end with Steven Stamkos. But, in a game like this, whether it be game 1 or even game 2 or even game 3, the Lightning and John Cooper need to find a way to get this guy going. You can't just have you can't allow this guy to go throughout the entire series just going 1 point a night. I mean, he had 5 shots and really just the game plan was very clear from the onset, was to just go at him any chance you got. And the Panthers did it phenomenally. I mean, if it was the other way around, if it was possible, I'm sure that the Lightning would have been able, or they did for the most part. I thought they did a very good job on the other side of that, of going after Reinhart when they had their chances. And really, after that first goal, which was I mean, really, that was just a 50-50 on that. But really, the key to the Lightning for the rest of the series, you got to give Kucherov chances, whether it be through set plays like we saw in the Hagel goal or some other iteration of that. You can't expect to go the distance in this series or really make it to past the 4-game mark without 86 being a huge part of your offense. And the Lightning should know that. The Panthers definitely know that. And that's something that really we saw in this game that, really concerned me, was this team was really not flowing the right way. I mean, yeah, the Panthers were doing a lot of things to obstruct the Lightning from getting going, but really when it comes down to it, you got to figure things out as the game goes along. You can't just sit there and say, well, they're shutting down Kucherov, so we need to look somewhere else. April 21st is not the time to figure out what you got to do without Kucherov. It's one of those things where, all right, we just have to adjust, and whether it be doing, like I said, set plays or whatever else way you could do to get the guy some space, then you got to do that, or really kind of tell, it's one of those things where I can't sit here and really offer up solutions. The guys in the locker room with each other that have chemistry together, and the coaches, they know how to get through that. I mean, they really need to figure out how to get your best player going in this playoff series, because this team was completely different. I mean, it's always, like I've said on the podcast, it's always great to see when you have Hagel and Stamkos and those guys getting involved. But really, you get a couple of goals, you get a couple of assists from Kucherov. This game maybe goes a little different. I will say early on, the first 15 minutes of this game, if maybe you adjust quicker to all that and figure things out, and on the other side of that as well, there was a couple of times, whether it be at the end of his shift or just certain moments, Kucherov really did not play well. There was a couple of times there where he got pickpocketed in the neutral zone or going across the line, had no idea that a Panthers defender was around him, and really kind of going half speed. And I'm not saying that he was mailing it in, but it's just one of those things where you can't allow that. It's one thing if it's a player that maybe is on your 3rd line, your 4th line, whatever, but this is by far your best offensive player. This is by far one of the top 3 players in the league. That's not a good look for him. That's not a good look for the Lightning, and especially in a playoff game. So the Lightning need to figure out this Kucherov thing real quick. Whether it be, I'm not saying move him down a line or move someone up to the first line, but they need to give him some better looks and switch things around. Whether it maybe not put him on the wing, or maybe just try a set play behind the net. Something of that sorts. But like I said, it's the time to turn it around is going to be game 2 in the first 10. And we're going to know very quickly whether or not they learn the lessons that they had to unfortunately learn from game 1 in game 2. So let me know. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, us as media or fans or, whomever you are, we, from the outside looking in, we could say numerous things, say They got to do this, they got to do that to get this guy going. But at the end of the day, the only guys that could get Kucherov going is himself and his teammates, as well as the coaches. So, I hope that the Lightning kind of, their eyes were opened in this game, because, 19 shots, 10 minutes of just really not doing, 15 minutes of really not doing anything in the first period. Your best player essentially getting shut down until 8 seconds left in the game. That's not a recipe to last in a playoff series, especially against a Panthers team who is playing with a lot of physicality, who is not taking the Tampa Bay Lightning lightly this time. So, I'm expecting to see some drastic changes, whether it be attitude, body language, effort. I expect to see all of that in game 2 tomorrow night. So let me know in the comments below. So coming up in just a little bit, we'll talk about one of the bright spots from this game, and that was Andrei Vasilevskiy's performance in net. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, we're going to wrap things up with our final sponsor of the day, and that is our friends over at Game Time. Now, Game Time, did you know, is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. One of my favorite things on this app really is the last-minute deals. You could save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concert, comedy, theater, etc. The zone deals save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So one last time, I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube channel. Hit us up in the comments section. Let us know your thoughts and feelings about Game 1. In the grand scheme of things, like I said, it's unfortunate the Lightning dropped Game 1. You definitely want to try and get, hit the ground moving in Game 1 of this playoff series against a very, very good Panthers team. And unfortunately, that did not happen. It was kind of the old tale that we kind of see with this Lightning team quite a bit throughout the course of the season, that, they start off slow, they figure it out, and, they just run out of time. And that's basically what it was. Stamkos puts them within 1 with 8 seconds left in the third. You really can't do much with that, because you got to win the faceoff. You got to get set, and by that time that's 4, 5, maybe even 6 seconds left, seconds off the clock. And yeah, it's unfortunate. But one of the things that really impressed me in this game, we talked about Kuch. Unfortunately, he was just bottled up for the most part, and it's really now on the Lightning to get him going. But really, one of the bright spots, and the thing that at least we could say that, the Panthers, they're going to be tough all series, but we could possibly look towards the possibility of looking at Vasilevskiy winning a game for the Lightning, and he was really spectacular in this one. I mean, I can't really put it any other way. I mean, he did everything that could have very, very well have been asked of him in this game. He saved 25 of 27 shots in a game where really the Panthers could have probably set up a tent in the Lightning zone and really just they were living there. That's really what it was. I mean, the fact that he didn't face any more shots than that, I mean, the way things were going in the first period, I really thought we were going to see maybe have a 50 save night, or 50 shots on net, kind of something similar to what we saw back in March against these two teams. But thankfully that wasn't the case. The Lightning did do a very good job of blocking shots in front of Vazzy, but like I predicted and like we talked about in full, the Panthers really put a lot of traffic in front of Vasilevskiy, and there was a couple of times there where he lost his stick, and the Panthers had 1, 2, sometimes even 3 players in front of the net, and he weathered the storm as well as any goaltender could in the playoffs, considering he wasn't getting a lot in return from his team offensively. Maybe on a different circumstances, you couple Vasilevskiy's performance with a competent offensive output, not 19 shots on goal, but something a little bit better. And, we might be talking about the outcome of this game being a little different. And that's the exciting thing I think we could kind of look towards to in game 2. We'll obviously talk about all this tomorrow as we do a full preview of tomorrow night's game. But, if we could see Vazzy get better, as to which we probably will, because I think that's the thing that the Lightning have the advantage on, is that Vasilevskiy missing the first 20 games of the season, and I think for the most part Cooper has done a good job of kind of picking his spots where to play him a lot more throughout the course of the season, as to kind of holding him back, especially in that last game of the season, giving him a little bit more rest. And the fact that he comes out in game 1 and plays the way he did, that's very positive, because usually, as we all know, Vasilevskiy can really start out a little slow. I mean, that first goal of the game he gives up to Reinhart, that's not his fault. I mean, there's a ton of traffic in front. It was a weird deflection up front. That really falls on the Lightning to really do a better job early on. I mean, you're spending a ton of time in your own zone. There's really not much you could do to help your goaltender, and he's basically keeping the game at 1, which is pretty impressive within itself. So really, that's kind of we've talked about it on the crossover. We talked about it on previous episodes leading up to that crossover episode with Locked On Panthers, that this was going to be a series of, as we've talked about in the past, the Lightning leading on Vasilevskiy, where, really I would like to see the opposite of that, Vasilevskiy leaning on his team. But really the big thing now in this series is that everyone's going to have to come to the table. It has to be 50-50, and that's what we've seen over the last month when the Lightning were playing very well, is, if Vasilevskiy's playing well and this team is playing well from top to bottom, and they're playing 60-minute games, as we've discussed in length, has been a huge problem for this team all season long. If we could get both of those performances out, then the Lightning will win games. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the Panthers. I don't care if it's anybody else. The Lightning, as long as you get good play out of your goaltender, is what we saw in game 1. And I guarantee you, we're going to see better play from him as the series progresses, because as we all know, as Vasilevskiy continues to play more and more, and now you got him fully rested, he's going to be a problem for the Panthers. But really, it's not going to mean anything if this guy is continuously crowded throughout the course of games. And if the Lightning are putting up sub-20 shot games, as we've kind of seen them dabble with over the last month, which has really been my only issue with this team when they were playing well, then this goaltending is going to be a wasted effort. And I don't want to see that. I don't think the Lightning want to see that. I think they'll end up kicking themselves if they do lose this series, and that is the tail of the tape for them. But I think Lightning fans, I'm sure some of you or a lot of you are worried that here we go again. It's going to kind of be what we saw last year in the series against the Leafs. I think it's going to be a little bit different than that. As long as you pick up a win Tuesday night, which I would almost be surprised to a certain extent, even though the Panthers are the favorite to win this series. I would be surprised if the Lightning leave Sunrise tomorrow night with down 2-0. Now, I can't sit here and predict when we'll see a Vasilevskiy game in which he completely shuts down the Panthers, and I don't think we'll see that in this series. I don't think we'll get a shutout from Vasilevskiy just because the Panthers are too good. In today's NHL, good offense beats good goaltending. That's just the way it goes nowadays. But if Vasilevskiy could continue to keep the Lightning in games, which I firmly believe was the whole reasoning as to why we had a 3-2 final yesterday afternoon, and the Lightning play well, every game is winnable for the Lightning. And I know it starts with 86, like I've said, but it also starts with 88, and he pulled up his end of the bargain. And I know that Kucherov struggled, and I'm sure from the moment the buzzer ended, the wheels were turning for the Lightning coaching staff, trying to figure out how can we get Kucherov, one of the best players in this league, going, because you definitely, like I said before, you definitely can't expect to get past game 4 if your top guy isn't putting up points or goals. So let me know, how were you surprised by the level of play from Vasilevskiy? I wasn't surprised, but it was nice to see that after that long rest that he was mostly ready to go from the onset, instead of having a slow start as we saw from the rest of the team. I thought really he made all the saves that really any other goaltender in the league could have possibly have made. So we'll be back tomorrow to talk about a preview for Tuesday night's game. We'll talk about the keys to that one, what the Lightning need to do on their end to get things going, what they need to do towards the Panthers to kind of keep them at bay. We'll talk about all of that. Like I said, go ahead, subscribe to our podcast, follow us on our social media accounts, LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter at DankyDank, DENKYD8NK. Questions, comments, concerns, if you want them answered on the show, go ahead, tweet to me or the show, and I will talk about it tomorrow or on any future episodes. So that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.